Welcome, everybody, to a special Sunday morning, at least here on the West Coast, live episode of A Strong Style. Of course, it's 12 p.m. on the East Coast, or a little bit after 12 p.m. on the East Coast. So hopefully you're taking along with us if you're brunching or lunching over there on the East Coast. And if you're just waking up, well, welcome aboard. Thanks for joining us. I am the Outlaw John Rocha, one of your co-hosts on the show, joined as always by my brother down there in Orlando, Aaron Turner. How are you, brother?
Recovering, man. As some people know, I had a kidney stone this week, and it's my first one ever, and they say that it's a lot like childbirth for women of pain. I don't know. I don't want to say that. Like I don't know. Right. That's what people say. Worst pain of my entire life. Like I've been lucky enough to never break like a serious bone, like fingers and stuff like that. But so I don't know what that pain is. But a lot of pain this week. But I'm okay now.
Oh, that's good. That's good. It's part of the game. Unfortunately, being a man, you're going to pass kidney stones every once in a while. It ain't pretty. It sucks. And I remember that Seinfeld episode where he had to pass through his urethra. Remember, what's his face? And he screamed all the way through New York. You could hear it all the way through New York when Kramer passed it through his ear. So not a good situation overall, but I'm glad you're feeling better. I'm glad you're on the way back recovery-wise, and so it's good to have you on the show here. We had to kind of change the time of the show a little bit because we had some family obligations that got in the way of us doing it normally on Saturday. We are usually Saturdays at 12, but, you have to make adjustments sometimes. So thank you all for joining us live. We got about 90 of so far. Hopefully that number goes up. Joining us live to talk about everything going on in the world of professional wrestling this weekend. We got so much to cover. That Bret Hart biography. We've got the Dark Side of the Ring with Dynamite Kid, which is really illuminating for someone like me who barely had any knowledge of Dynamite Kid. And so we've got more from Mark Henry talking about the WWE locker room, Lio Rush retiring, Mickie James joining NWA and pushing for an All Womens pay-per-view. And of course, tonight, NXT Takeover in your house is happening, so we will be previewing that as well. So strap in, get ready, put up your feet, and enjoy a little wrestling talk with the boys here on Strong Style. And remember, the Super Chats and the Streamlabs are open. So if you're feeling generous this morning and you want to say thank you for doing the show, you want to get a few of your comments in, you want to get some opinions out there for everyone else in the community to see up on the screen who is watching, who may be watching later, not live, then please feel free to send it in. The address is right above Aaron's head. It's also in the description of this video, and I'm going to pin it in the chat right now. So, all right, Aaron, where shall we go, my man?
So we're going to start off with some odd news this week, and that is Lionel Green, also known as Lio Rush, announcing his retirement from professional wrestling this past week. If you don't know, Lio Rush was injured during the Casino Battle Royal of AEW Double or Nothing the past week. It was thought to be just like, your run-of-the-mill separated shoulder, maybe a broken collarbone kind of thing, but it looks to be a little bit more serious than maybe people let on, which led to Lio Rush issuing a statement saying that I am retiring from pro wrestling. It's been a crazy ride, but it's time to get off and do what truly makes me happy. Thank you, AEW and New Japan Global, for everything. He went on to say that once he is healed, he will fulfill his obligations to New Japan Pro Wrestling and then be officially retired. So he's not just going to, go.
Yeah.
There's a couple other things that he said. I just want to get this out here. He said, once the pain subsided and I started to feel just how uncomfortable it was to feel my arm hanging from my body, I sunk into an immediate and rapidly growing depression because I knew something was wrong. He also said he believed that not only would it affect his wrestling obligations, and he still tried to go on about his days as he knew them before, but realized that his injury was quite severe. Yeah. So he realized that this would affect his everyday life, and he decided to make the turn and say that, hey, I'm retiring. So a lot of thoughts here on Lio Rush. I mean, we had Greg Hamilton of the WWE. I don't know if you guys saw this story, but Greg Hamilton, announcer for SmackDown, put out this post essentially calling Lio Rush a liar or saying that he's doing it for attention, because Lio has done something similar. And people, people accused him of doing it for the clout and stuff like that instead of actually being genuine. So this doesn't feel like the same situation. This feels like a guy that says, I'm injured and I don't want to feel that way. And I'm young and I've got children and I've got other things I could do. So maybe now's the time. So I don't know. What do you think about this, man?
Well, also Greg Hamilton took it back as well.
He did.
He said, you know, he had issued a statement saying, I can admit when I'm wrong, and I was wrong. We don't have to see eye to eye backstage, but Lio Rush is an incredible father as well as a talent. I have all the respect in the world for that. No one made me type this, just owning my mistake. He'll be missed. So he did tweet that out. Also, Greg Hamilton is the announcer, right? That's what he is?
SmackDown announcer. Yes.
Okay. You're the fucking announcer, guy. Like, I hate to break it to you. You're the fucking announcer. Know your place. Guys like you get replaced all the fucking time, all right? You're not out there taking the bumps and taking the hits. I auditioned to be announcer. It is a cake job. You are traveling, but you have to be and doing what you do naturally, which is announce people walking to the fucking ring. Howard Finkel is the pinnacle. So I'm not talking about Finkel. I'm talking about everybody else who can be interchanged and moved around and what have you. You know, you're just an announcer. So for him to come out, it's such an odd tweet for him to start some shit with Lio Rush. And, you know, Lio Rush didn't have the greatest run in the WWE. There was a lot of complaints about his arrogance, a lot of complaints, which of course could also be confidence. Last I checked, Flair was pretty arrogant. Hogan was pretty arrogant. People who succeed in this business usually are arrogant or have an ego about themselves. So maybe it was something beyond the pale or beyond the usual amount of arrogance. Maybe it has something to do with the fact that he's black, or maybe the fact that he's a smaller guy. Who knows what the reasons are? People have their own issues there. But Lio didn't have the most successful run with the WWE, and there were rumors backstage. So now he goes over to the AEW situation, and people exploded when he came out. I didn't know if he'd have that cachet, but people exploded. Now, you said, well, they'd explode for anybody. I don't believe that. I do think fans react to things as they see them and are happy about them. We can disagree on that. It's cool. But like, I just felt there was great response. So it looked like people were ready to welcome Lio Rush back in and see what he could do in the ring, because he's an incredible high flyer, a good talent, certainly to there. So, but unfortunately the injury is there. So if the injury is serious, and it seems to be like it is, maybe he's looking at the situation like, you know what? This is the end of the road here. Let's look at other things. And I think that's a good thing, Aaron. We see this in professional sports leagues now more and more. These young men go into these situations, and young women too, go into these situations. This is what they've, planned to do with their lives. But there's more opportunities out there now when you go the athlete route than there was in the past. Yes. When you were a professional wrestler, there were not a lot of things you could do past professional wrestling in the 80s and 90s, except be in cheesy TV shows. There wasn't much. So to see, and you don't want to do rapping like Randy did. So you like this situation here for Lio, that there are options. So to me, maybe this is a smart situation for him. Like I said, he's a dad. He's got his health to think about, and he wants to see if there's other opportunities for him out there. So it's a shame he got hurt, but the fact that he understands that he's young and there's more that he can do with his life, that's a positive.
And he's 26. So
yeah, 26.
26. So let's think about this. Let me put this in a little bit of perspective. Like, I have a coworker this week that's leaving our company, and she's moving to Italy.
Yeah.
And like, I was talking to her and I asked, oh, what a cool opportunity to move to Italy. And she was like, and I asked her, like, what's in Italy? She says, I got friends. I'm just young. I could do it. I'm just going to do it. And I was like, hell yeah, man, more power to you. Cause you only get so many opportunities in life when you're young to do these things. So why not? I mean, look, like you said, the NFL, like Calvin Johnson left before his probably time was up. Patrick Willis did the same thing. Even Barry Sanders left before his career peak. So these guys, they didn't want to become guys that stuck around, kept getting hurt, and these CTE issues and different things. So, I mean, maybe sometimes in life you just get scared enough to think like, okay, maybe this isn't what I need to be doing. Maybe I just need to change it up a little bit. I've seen that a little bit with if you've been following Braun Strowman and his posts on Twitter.
Oh yeah,
it seems like maybe Braun Strowman doesn't think wrestling is in the cards for him anymore. And I don't mean that in like a he's really bitter or sad about it. Like, I think he just realizes that, maybe there's more to life than this, and I can do other things. And that's a hard thing to realize, man. Mm-hmm. Like, when I was a young guy, like when I was in high school, like I was, all state in West Virginia football, but I was like, oh, I'm going to the NFL. That's dumb. Like that's really dumb to think that. So, you kind of grow up, you kind of live, like, see what's ahead of you, and then you kind of figure out your own path. I got nothing against Lio Rush for doing it. Great talent, guy that can do a lot of things in the ring. But if it's not what you want to do and you're not passionate about it and you can do other things, then do it.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, I mean, once you get into a competitive situation, it can be all encompassing, and you can sometimes forget that there was a life before you got into this stuff,
Yeah.
and there'll be a life afterwards. And so I think a lot of these guys that have come before Lio Rush, a lot of these younger guys, they see them as cautionary tales, right? We're going to talk about the Bret Hart biography. We're going to talk about the Dynamite Kid on the dark side of the ring. Those are cautionary tales for people like, hey, you got to plan for a life outside of wrestling. You got to be ready for when it's over for what you're going to do. And look, even Steve Austin struggled once it was over. You know, once, like I said in Rocky 3, I mentioned a couple times on the show, once everyone is through chanting your name, you got to figure out what you're going to do with your life. Look, I'm seeing the end of the road in a very, very small way as the Outlaw, and I'm thinking to myself, well, if I walk away from the Schmodown, will people still care about my reviews, about my channel, about the things I host? If I'm not on screen doing that Outlaw character anymore, will people care, since it built a lot of what I've, or some of what I've got now? But that's, you've got to hit that point where, you know what, enough is enough, and you move on, and you hope you can make peace with that and plan for a life afterwards. So Lio Rush, we hope you're making some plans. 26 to Aaron. 26, son. Yeah. There is so much out there at 26 for you. He can go back to school. He can go get a master's in business, go be a successful businessman, go do all these other things, because certainly he's a charisma, personality. He's a good-looking kid. He's a dad already, so that means that, you know, people immediately look at this guy as a caretaker or as a nurturer. So all of that are positive things in his corner, and maybe the experiences of being in a competitive environment will help him as he transitions into another competitive environment in business, possibly.
Yeah, he's a musician too, so he's got that going for him. Maybe that's something that he focuses on, doing, you know, gigs until he can, you know, get something big. But that's, I mean, just find out where your path is, man. Just do it. It's time. Yeah.
And be prepared that there are many paths in life, and you so you should be thankful when many paths present themselves, because it means you're a person with many talents. That's what I think. All right, anything more on this, or shall we move on?
No, that's about it, man.
Okay, we got a couple of Streamlabs that have come through here. Let me read them real quick. Aaron A.Z. Babish said, "Howdy, boys. Love the show. My wife says I'm not allowed any more T-shirts, but that got me curious. How big are your collections? What are your faves? How do you store them? Do you call them regularly? What's your process?" Great question, AZ Badface.
Like wrestling T-shirts or just T-shirts in general?
Sure. I think T-shirts in general.
Okay. I'm a big fan of graphic T-shirts. Like if I was, I swear to God, if I was super rich, like my whole wardrobe would be just graphic T-shirts of stuff that I like. Like that's, I mean, I have probably, I think at last count, I have like, I've trimmed it down. I have like 28 wrestling shirts.
Wow.
If we want to talk about that, but it's just all encompassing. It just depends. Like I have Andre the Giant, I have Owen Hart, I have Adam Cole, I have different things. I don't wear them like I'll wear them to events and stuff. I don't really wear them out in public unless it can be confused as like a regular T-shirt, only because like the regular, like your WWE shop T-shirts are so, this is definitely a wrestling shirt, like kind of thing. And they just kind of, they're odd. I don't know. But like some shirts, I tend to go towards the shirts on WWE shop or other places that just look like a normal shirt. Like if you buy clothes from Homage or Roots of Fight, like they have just like, oh, Bret the Hitman Hart. Like it makes it look like he's like a boxer or something. Yeah. I'll wear stuff like that. My wife, though, has a T-shirt collection that's ridiculous that she just acquires and acquires. She has like 100 some T-shirts. It's ridiculous.
Wow. It's ridiculous. Usually it's the other way around, where the wife is telling you to get rid of T-shirts, like AZ Badfish here. So that's shocking that she has 100 T-shirts.
Yeah, she got a lot.
Yeah, I call regularly every couple of years, stuff that I'm no longer wearing and no longer interested in, and I have to keep it because at my height, I think I had like 80 T-shirts, or maybe even 100. I had a, like, you know, those things they sell at IKEA to put the shoes in, those little shoe things. Yeah. I on the top, underneath my shoes, so the two shelves for my shoes, I had shirts stacked literally that high in 4 separate columns that would have to balance against themselves so I could figure out what I wanted to wear. So when my girlfriend and I got together, Lady Outlaw was like, no, we're not doing that. So I had to get rid of some of the other shirts. Plus, to be fair, I got a little heavier, so some of those shirts some of my mediums don't fit anymore like they did a few years ago. So you get rid of those shirts. So the stuff I buy now, I'm very particular about it, but I'm also not afraid to take a chance on a shirt. And if in a few months it doesn't work out, I just get rid of it and then buy something else. Pro wrestling tees, maybe my favorite shirts I've bought in the last year. Perfectly fit. Love the designs. Yeah, you got to get the soft. It's absolutely the difference there. And they fit really well. So I am always on the hunt for shirts. It's a terrible addiction of mine, but I have to be careful about it because I have to also make it worth it that I would actually wear the shirt. So doing the show, you and me, has given me excuse to buy wrestling shirts, which I had not had that much in my life. So it's been nice to be able to do that. And the sports show that I have, Game Time, allows me to buy some sports shirts as well. And if you notice me at Collider, I rarely wore shirts just as shirts. I usually wore the button down. But since I've transitioned into this place, into my channel, I like wearing the shirts. So I focus on geek shirts and things like that. So, but I keep it limited. Or else I'll get in deep trouble, and it's expensive.
Yeah, so, I mean, it's to counter that. You know how many pairs of jeans that I have?
Oh no, how many? One pair of jeans, Aaron.
I live in Florida. I don't need them.
That's a fair point.
I don't need them.
All right,
just
Anthony Persek. You just want to get right. Fair enough. Anthony Persek says, no question, just throwing some love your way. Thanks for everything you guys do. Oh, thank you, Anthony.
Thanks, man. Appreciate that.
All right, let's keep moving on. Aaron, where should we go? Please keep sending in to Streamlabs and Superchats. Love that you're hanging out with us on a Sunday morning or Sunday afternoon, wherever you're at in the country, and we appreciate it. And I hope you're having a good time. What do we got next?
Now we're talking about Mark Henry and his comments on, well, his not his comments, but more like his comments, his surmise of the WWE locker room. He was a guest on the Oral Sessions with Renee Paquette, the former Renee Young, and he was talking about the culture that he thinks is in the WWE locker room. First of all, he did say that he told Vince that he wanted to be paid like a WWE employee, when he was brought into the Hall of Fame deal and all that kind of stuff. And once they figured out they weren't going to do that, he picked up the phone and called Tony Khan. Whatever. Yeah. So when Renee asked him about, like, what do you think's going on in WWE? What about like all these talent cuts? Henry said, this is his quote here. I'm kind of shocked at everything that's happening because when I look at the product, I think some people might be disappointed. Talent-wise, morale has got to be down. But it looks like to me that WWE is breaking everything up and closing some doors to get everything to be kind of normal for change. And usually when people break everything up like that and start moving and closing departments, it's so they can sell it. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. I don't own it. So it's going to be something to look at because you see what happened. They had the WWE Network and they went to Peacock. And now that's someone else's responsibility. They are taking all the expenditures out and making it more of a pretty package to buy and do whatever you want with it. It's more geared towards making it comfortable for what's next rather than what it is. So then he went on to say, Renee went on to say, there's nothing worse than going to work feeling like you're working on eggshells. Does that not lead to good performances? And Henry said, it don't. Like I said, it's bad for morale. You feel like pressed. Like if I don't go out here and do super fantastic, I might be next. It's not a great feeling. Then Renee ended with, it's scary. John Moxley, her husband, and I were having a conversation the other day. I'm like, man, we got out at the perfect time. I couldn't imagine being there now, how just being like, what is happening? Like your whole head would be spinning. It sucks. I feel so bad for everybody there. Yeah. So a lot of heavy comments here from Mark Henry and Renee Paquette. What do you think? Like, we talked about it a little bit last week, like WWE gearing up for a possible sale to like a Disney or a Fox or a Verizon, Viacom, what the hell ever. Do you think it's coming from some guy that's been backstage like Mark Henry through all these years, like an agent, a guy that's been very loyal to the WWE, and you hear something like this, do you think it's more of a possibility that they're gearing up for a sale?
Yeah, I think, guys who are on the inside like Mark Henry has been for a number of years. I don't think they're just going to say stuff irresponsibly because then they can get called out on it. Like, hey, you're the guy who, you were with WWE for a number of years. How could you not be aware of what they're doing? And why were you sending us down a road that never happened? So to me, I think he can't say it straight up, but he can allude to it. He can hint at it. And he is not the only one. A number of people have been saying that this is on the cards. And so you wonder if this is the next kind of step and peek behind the curtain to what's happening over there at the WWE. And if they are going to sell it, and if they do sell it, it doesn't mean Vince is going to step away. So don't start getting dreams and aspirations that somehow someone else is going to be involved with creative. What it'll be is like when Christian sold the Schmodown or went in partnership with Skybound. Skybound is the overall funder of the Schmodown, but it's Christian who is like deciding the creative direction of things. And the WWE, same thing. I think if Vince sells the WWE, he's going to sell it to a partner that's going to underwrite a lot of what they're doing or have a budget, and they have to adhere to the budget. But Vince is going to still be in charge of creative decisions while he's still alive. That's what I imagine is going to happen in this situation. And I'm being very, very general about the Skybound Schmodown situation. Certainly there's more involved in that, but I'm just trying to give a general picture overall. And I think that's what's happening here. And Mark Henry certainly, saying it, and Renee saying what she said. So it's so interesting because Renee was all about swinging that WWE banner for the whole time she was there. And it's so funny to see when people get out how honest they actually are about what's going on behind the scenes. And, to me, that tarnishes the brand. It tarnishes the logo. Yet there are people yet the ratings are better than they've ever been. The money apparently is coming in better than it ever has, yet they're making these cuts. And I think that's why Mark Henry is making an astute observation here. You're looking at the economics of this, and they don't add up. It doesn't make sense to make more money and cut more employees. That doesn't make any sense at all. But I think he's spot on as well about what's going on behind the scenes and the feeling of like, who's next in this situation. It's a tough place to work when you're worried about, when you're seeing other people being let go and surprise firings, and you're wondering, well, am I next? And you hear this gloom and doom around in the locker room. It can get to you because everyone's a human being. No matter how much you're making, everybody's a human being and wants to be happy where they're working,
Yeah, I think this just affirms my point from last week. Like I talked about I use Zack Ryder as an example. Like they kept him on the WWE payroll for like 10 years and barely used him. Yeah. Now they're just not going to do that. Like if they don't have any creative direction for you, you're just gone.
Yeah.
Like if they're not going to use you, they're just going to get rid of you. And that is like seriously some cutthroat business, but that's business. Like TV time is so precious that if they're not going to use you for it, then you got to go. Yeah. And it's harsh, man. That is such a harsh reality because WWE, and I hate to say this again because I know he's a controversial figure, but I was listening to Cornette and he was talking about how, WWE was paying people essentially more money and extending contracts so they wouldn't go to AEW.
Right.
Like, hey, I know your contract's coming up and we don't want you to we don't want you to go to AEW. We're going to re-up you for 5 more years, give you this amount of money. We're going to give you more money than, make you stay here. They're just not going to do that anymore. Like they're just not playing these games anymore. Yeah. And that's part of it. And Cornette kind of correlated to WWE not fearing AEW and whatever. I don't really care about that part of it, but I'm just saying like the fact that they won't keep you around if they're not using you is just, it's a different business practice that I think people aren't used to. So when someone like Braun Strowman, a former WWE Universal Champion, gets let go, or an Aleister Black, a fan favorite, someone they were essentially doing something with, it comes as a shock because you're not expecting like, holy shit, like these people, what you don't realize is like everybody in the WWE is expendable except for maybe a few, like Roman, Charlotte, Seth Rollins, like they're probably gonna be lifers. Yeah. But like everybody else is expendable, man. Like you could just, they're gone. And in a couple months, we'll see what happens. Like there's rumors that NXT is thinking about bringing back Samoa Joe. Like that's happened. And there's also rumors that they're thinking about bringing back Aleister Black as well. Mm-hmm. So WWE is not, they're not the most perfect people in the world. I think they can realize their own mistakes. Like, holy crap, we really screwed the pooch with this one. We should probably bring him back. So don't get your eggs in one basket about WWE kicking people to the curb, but it's just a different business practice that we've seen before. And I think that's what's really shocked people.
Yeah, and it's a business practice that a lot of fans have been complaining about for years for them to put into motion. You know, hey, if you're not using my favorite wrestler, you get rid of him so he or she can go to another company and get highlighted and get like a great storyline going, blah, blah, blah. So fans have been saying this since the dawn of the WWE, I think. Like, if you're not going to use my wrestler correctly, or why aren't they using him correctly or her correctly, they should leave. They should be able to get out of their contract and go someplace that understands their value. Well, now you can't. Now, when you're not tied up into a storyline that makes sense, even if you're in the middle of a storyline like Aleister Black was, they'll still get rid of you if they don't see the future of the storyline working out for you. So in the end, it does suck because it's not stability. So if you're a professional wrestler, you want to get to a position where you can get a guaranteed contract. That's where you really want to be at. So they pay you your money, and you can either sit like Kevin Nash and Scott Hall did for a while before you roll back into the next situation, or you can go into or you can just go right into another federation and do your thing. So you got to take care of your business and take care of your money. And nothing is permanent anymore, ladies and gentlemen. So you got to be all focused on what else is out there and what you can do. And especially if you're under someone else's thumb. You know, the reason I'm building and working as hard as I'm building on the Outlaw Nation and doing all the shows, and I kept to top 10, I kept to Cinephiles, even though I was full-time at Collider the whole time, is because building those revenue streams up so that I can be on my own. And I've survived now for a year and a half, essentially on my own. And eventually I want it to be my own thing, so I don't have to answer to anybody. And so I'm not built to answer it. I hate it, being under someone else's thumb, worrying whether someone else's whim decides if you're going to be able to pay your bills or not. Last night I was reading about a guy in Florida, 86 years old, who shot and killed his boss down there in a sugarcane plant because he wanted to work one more year because of financial situations that he was in, and the boss said he couldn't. So the guy pulled out a gun and killed him. And that's the lunacy that happens to you when you allow yourself to be under someone else's thumb your entire life. So you've got to build out something for yourself if you really want to have true independence and determine your life. And so in these situations, unfortunately, other people own these wrestling companies. So the way you push back is get yourself a contract where you're guaranteed or you have wiggle room that doesn't impact you financially. But no surprise to see the WWE doing this. I think they don't see AEW as much of a competition, but I also think they see their record profits. So clearly they don't need to keep these people around if they don't want to. They're in a better bargaining position now. They have more leverage, so they're using it.
Mm-hmm. Well, something else, I didn't put this on the rundown, but I was reading about Triple H on a conference call, was saying, he essentially said that if you want to be somebody in the pro wrestling business, then you want to sign with WWE. I don't know if that's was exact words or I was paraphrasing, but a lot of people took offense to that. Like Tony Khan came out from AEW and said, oh, there's a lot of people that don't want to work there and blah, 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 blah. And I'm just like, I don't know, man. Like, I feel like if you want to be tops in the wrestling business, then you would probably go to WWE. I know I say that painted as such strong WWE colors. Like, I'm such a WWE guy. I'm a loyalist, but it's like, if you want to go be a football star, you don't go to the CFL, bro. You go to the NFL. Like, that's what you want to do. So I don't know about that. Like, I think his quote was taken out of context, or he said it wrong. I'm not sure, but like, kind of thought that was an asshole thing to say, but it could be true. What do you think about that?
I think it is true. If you want to be anybody in the wrestling business, and by anybody, I'm thinking he means like known globally in a way that you can make money and brand yourself at the highest level of a financial possibility for yourself. Yes, the WWE is the way to go. You cannot argue that AEW has as strong of an outreach globally as WWE or NJPW or Ring of Honor. Yeah, they're not close. So what? The genesis of his argument is something I do agree with. If you want to really be somebody in the professional wrestling business, you go to the WWE, and from there you can transition into other places because people know you already from what you've accomplished in AEW. It doesn't mean Hangman Page isn't a star. It doesn't mean anybody else down there. Anybody else at AEW isn't a star who's never been to the WWE. Of course they are. It's just different levels of stardom. So I think what he was saying was that if you want to get to a place where people know you globally and you're anybody, it is the WWE. And he's right. I didn't know who Seth Rollins was till he came to the WWE. I had no clue who that kid was, or Daniel Bryan, or a lot of these people. I didn't know who they were going through the indies until they got to the WWE. I'd heard about them, but I didn't really watch their stuff. Now Rollins can go anywhere he wants in the world. That's how it works. You know, if you go to AEW, it's just a smaller audience. That's the truth. And Tony Khan needs to stop taking the bait on this shit, man. Seriously.
He does take a lot of clickbait. Zeno Hour clarified and said, he said if you're a female wrestler, you want to be in WWE. Which, when hearing that, I don't know if that's true either.
Yeah,
I think if you want to be a female wrestler, you want to be in NXT, because that's where all the women are. But, I mean, definitely don't want to be on the main roster because they'll just cut your ass.
Yeah,
like there's just nothing. We'll talk about that later. But I mean, there's just nothing there for, like, if I were a female talent, I don't know where I'd want to be right now. But
and I'd hate to break it to some of you. If you think Britt Baker is as famous as Nia Jax, you're wrong. Yeah, Nia Jax is more famous than Britt Baker. No matter how much Britt Baker is great in the ring, no way does she have the global outreach that Nia Jax does. So that's the difference. So you do want to be in the WWE to be somebody. Doesn't mean you're going to be great at it and you're going to have great competition and it's going to elevate your brand in terms of competition. Maybe not, but certainly status-wise, people knowing who you are, it will elevate you to be in the WWE, of course.
I was watching something or reading something, and I heard this stat that said in India, WWE is the most popular sport in India because India
over cricket.
Wow. Well, it's because of COVID. They haven't had cricket and stuff like that.
That's true.
WWE has taken over as their most popular sport.
That's
and
fair.
Something like 400 million people watch the WWE in India. Like, what the hell?
Wow.
Like, that is so crazy to think. Like, there's no other brand that has an outreach like that in India. Like, there's just no way. So it just goes to show you, like, the global, like, and this isn't to down AEW. It's just like WWE has such a global outreach. Like, you of course would want to be a part of that brand. Like, yes, they've extended to Saudi Arabia, and that's whatever you feel, and different things. They want to go to Japan and India and stuff like that. So it's kind of whatever you want it to be. But I mean, if I were a top wrestler of male or female, that's where I would want to be. Of course.
Yeah, look. Remember the USFL kids? USFL to NFL. That's AEW to WWE. There were great stars in the USFL. Herschel Walker, Jim Kelly, Warren Moon.
Doug Flutie?
They were phenomenal talent down there that was known. People watched the USFL, but it ain't the NFL. It ain't the NFL. And all of them eventually wound up the great ones in the NFL. That's how it works. So that's the same situation here with AEW and WWE. Yeah, you can be known for your incredible work in AEW, but you ain't going to be known until you're in WWE. And someone said it there. Young Boy said AEW fans know about WWE. Some WWE fans don't know about AEW. There's the difference right there. Yeah.
That's pretty simple and pretty well said. That's pretty astute.
Absolutely. All right, let me see if I've got any more Streamlabs. All right, nothing's come in. Ladies and gentlemen, please send in your support for the show here. What we do, we're up this early to bring you some fun conversations here on Strong Style on the Outlaw Nation channel. See the address above Aaron's head. You can also see it pinned in the chat and also in the description of this video. Any support you can send in to tell you how much you like the show or tell us or ask us any comments or give any thoughts that you want our opinions on, please send them in as we have a little fun hanging out with you this morning, talking some pro wrestling. All right, where are we off to, brother?
Just 1 second. I saw a comment pop in there from Roberto Arsenal. He said, in terms WWE's Manchester United, most followed team around the world in all of sports, but their recent product is mediocre. AEW's Manchester City. I have no idea what that means.
He's completely wrong.
He's completely
wrong. Manchester City now is just as known as Manchester United, Pally. I hate to break it to you. That chic money they have in Man City, that spreads all over the world. Chelsea is as popular as Manchester United. Liverpool is even more popular than Manchester United. Go check the books. So please don't even with that crap. And I appreciate what you're saying, Roberto, but come on. Arsenal, not so well though. Yeah,
Roberto,
ahead.
I have no idea. I have no idea what you're talking about. I'm not a football guy. I apologize.
Basically every team that tried to join the Europe Super League, those are the high-ranking teams that make a lot of money around the world. So,
okay, gotcha.
Except for maybe Tottenham. All right, let's move on. What's the next thing?
All right, so now we're talking about my favorite thing of the week, and that is the Bret the Hitman Hart biography on A&E this past week, and what a biography that it was. Of course, it chronicled the career of one Bret the Hitman Hart, and I think it was one of the better ones that they did. They started out with Bret showing how he can draw. I don't know if a lot of people knew that he was like a good artist.
I did not.
Great, like cartoony artist for sure. And then it kind of chronicled, his career. If you didn't know about it, there's a lot of stuff in there that pretty standard Bret Hart stuff. Mm-hmm. You notice they didn't mention the Dynamite Kid at all, pretty much. We'll talk about that later. But they were all connected, man. The Harts were all connected. So you had Bret, and you had Owen, then you had, his sisters that were married to wrestlers. You had Diana that was married to Davey Boy. Then you had his other sister that was married to Jim the Anvil. And then you had his wife, his first wife, Julie, who was married, or whose sister was married to Tommy Billington, aka the Dynamite Kid. Mm-hmm. So you got a lot of that, like the Hart family ties. I like that they took it back to Stu Hart and Stu and Helen Hart, and they showed you like the origins of that, how Stu was like this giant muscle of a man that just loved wrestling so much that he would, at one point, Bret said that if he knew some wrestler was coming in, like even at his old age, he would like get giddy and jump out of bed just to go stretch him, just to make him scream. Like stuff like that is so cool. And just the way that the Harts came up, like just a big family story. And then it kind of chronicles Bret's rise from Calgary Stampede Wrestling to when Vince bought it. And the deal was that that Stu would sell Vince Stampede Wrestling, but he had to give his boys a job, which was, Bret, and then they had Dynamite Kid, Davey, and Anvil. Yeah. And eventually came Owen and other people like that through Stampede Wrestling. So that was a cool part of the story. Then it, showed Bret as a tag team champion, rising up the ranks to Intercontinental champion, finally world champion, and then like the global superstar that he became. I don't know if people knew how popular Bret Hart was in the 90s, like not just in the WWE, but like in the States and in Canada, but like across the world. Yeah, this dude was like an international megastar. So I was cool. It was cool to see that. Of course, Montreal. I wish they would just skip that entirely because I'm so sick of hearing about it. And then you hear about his stroke and his divorce with Julie, and then his new marriage, which has been great. Yeah. And how Bret has essentially taken the Stu Hart role, and like he lives in the big house now, and everybody comes to his house, and he has a good relationship with his kids and stuff like that. And it really just turned around for the Hitman and ended on such a positive note. I know you're not the biggest Bret Hart fan in the world. Yeah. But what did you think about this biography?
I gotta say, it turned me around on Bret. It really did. Like that was that transition time where I didn't really watch that much. Once Bret became champion, I never thought Bret spoke for me when he said there are a lot of people that thought I would never become champion or didn't deserve to be WWE champion. And he was right. I was one of those people who just didn't believe in Bret Hart as a champion. But seeing all the behind-the-scenes stuff, seeing his interactions with those young kids, seeing the way people responded to him, I forgot how putting the shades on really was a highlight for a lot of kids and what have you. He was one of the first to do it in that manner. So you got to give him credit there. But seeing the behind-the-scenes stuff and his upbringing and the fact that he didn't even think that he was going to be a wrestler, that he was focused on music and focused on these other, doing movies, for God's sakes. Mm-hmm. He had other ambitions, other paths that he wanted to walk, but that, none of them really worked out in the way that he felt was satisfactory to him. And so then he found himself coming back to wrestling, and damn if he didn't become the crown jewel of the Hart family, for God's sakes, a guy who wasn't into it at the beginning and turned it all around and really became a superstar. And a superstar, though, it is interesting. You get a really concrete idea of who Bret Hart is in a window into who the man is. And this biography forced me to reassess a lot of things about Bret. And that is the fact that this is a guy who didn't chase the gold ring because he thought nobody wanted him to have the gold ring. Nobody thought he deserved it. And maybe it's the foundation of that down in that Hart dungeon where his dad was constantly probably telling him, you had to work harder, you had to work better, you had to be better than everybody else. Maybe we saw some of that alluded to. It humbled him. And so it kept him at a certain level. So the aloofness or the distance that I felt with Bret, was born from a place, it seems like to me when I watch this biography, from a place of not thinking that he believed in himself, but believing that nobody else believed in him. And so instead of that being like, I'm going to be the guy that shows you, he was more like, I'm just going to keep my head down and do my job, and eventually it'll work out for me. And so I gained a whole new level of respect for Bret Hart that wasn't there before. And I would like to take back all the stuff I've said in the past about him now with this new assessment of him. Still, I can't, I can't go and put him in, my top 5 wrestlers or anything like that. But certainly, I can reassess him as a person and as a personality now, having seen this biography. And I'm going to be honest with you, Aaron, when it first started, I was like, oh, this is going to be a puff piece. They're using that nice music to make you feel happy. But as they got into things, you got that, you got a good idea of his upbringing and his relationship with his family and his connection to everything, and what he was able to accomplish over all those years. And of course, he still speaks honestly about the Shawn Michaels and Vince situation, and very honestly about the Goldberg situation. Goldberg is essentially the Ultimate Warrior without hair. Like the way people talk about Goldberg versus the way the fans respond to Goldberg are two completely different things. My God.
It's my favorite quote. I'll talk about that in a second. My favorite part of the entire documentary. But when he talks about how Shawn Michaels came out there, like their rift, and he said that he insinuated that he and Sonny were having an affair.
Oh my God.
When this dude had like a family and like his wife at home, he's like, I'm actually going to beat that son of a bitch up. So he just goes and pulls a chunk out of his hair and all kinds of stuff.
Those were the days you could do that, Aaron.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
And how many people in the history of the world have punched Vince McMahon in the face and gotten away with it? Yeah. Like Bret Hart said, if you're here when I get out of the shower, I'm going to punch you right in the face. And he sure did.
Yep.
I mean, that's incredible. And I'm amazed that they got his first wife, Julie. Like, I didn't know what their situation was like, but I know she's not a fan of the WWE at all, especially after the Montreal. She called Triple H a son of a bitch, like all kinds of stuff like that. So I was surprised to see Julie in there. And she's in Dark Side of the Ring too. So it's a double Julie Hart week.
That's true.
But I really enjoyed it, man. Like, I love how he pretty much shit on WCW because they didn't know what to do with him. And it's like just a bunch of clowns are running WCW, which was great.
Right.
And then, of course, with the quote of the entire thing when he said, Bill Goldberg as a wrestler on a scale of 1 to 10 was a 0. Like, how great is that? Like, that is perfect. Like, he said Goldberg, like, essentially thought that wrestling was real and he kicked his head off. And that gave Bret that nasty concussion, which he thinks and not really did. I mean, there's no real proof that it contributed to his stroke, which he had, and that they showed him recovering from his stroke. Like, Bret's been through it, man. The death of his brother. He's lost more family along the way. His parents. He's lost some other brothers.
Yeah, Davey Boy. Yeah,
Davey Boy, Jim, Brian Pillman.
Right.
Like, Bret has been, through the loss, and to see it, like, divorce as well. Him and Julie tried to work it out, but they couldn't. And just to see, like, how he lives with, like, his wife, who is, significantly younger than him, and people are like, oh, I don't know if it'll work. But he seems like he's just super happy.
Yeah.
Like, he just seems like he's the happy family man that Stu was. And it's like they have a new modern day Stu and Helen Hart with Bret. And he even talked about it a little bit. And we've seen it over the past couple of months. Like, I've noticed that Bret is becoming less bitter.
Yes.
Like, I don't know how. Like, it's just maybe an old man in reflection. But Bret is finally becoming, like, less bitter about the industry and people. And it's cool to see, man. Like, because Bret's always been one of my favorites. That clip that they show when he beats Ric Flair and he's being interviewed by Mean Gene, and he holds up the belt and he says, this is proof that the biggest dreams can still come true. Yeah. Like, that as a kid, I was like, wow. Like, how cool is Bret Hart? Like, he was just always the coolest guy. He always had the best matches, and he had pink and black and made it work. So Bret was always my guy. Always my guy.
Also, like, it's so great to see Shawn Michaels speaking honestly about it as well and talking about burying the hatchet. Look, when you're young men and you're competing for stuff, the worst parts of your natures are going to come out sometimes, especially if you're not, like, emotionally the most stable person or psychologically the most stable person. And most people at that time didn't get into wrestling who were pretty, psychologically stable. Right. Most people were desperate for the attention, desperate for the ring. Bret Hart was different. Bret Hart was about being great in the ring and delivering a great match every night for the fans. He was a blue collar guy. No matter how much he had the pink and black and all that, he was a blue collar guy who did the work in the ring, and it was one of the most technically excellent wrestlers that you're ever going to see for sure. You can't deny that. Whether my feelings about his personality, one way or another, as a talent, his work in the ring is undeniable in terms of its skill level. So that's the thing there. But maybe this marriage, this second marriage, is what's kind of softening him and letting him reflect. She's younger. She's able to look at it from a different point of view. She's not in it like Julie was. Julie was surrounded by it all the time. Family and Bret all the time. Pro wrestling. It feels like to me, this young woman who's come into his life, who is his new wife now, she might be softening these edges for him. She might be getting him to open up, getting him to be a little more, talk about his feelings more, getting him to let it out. He literally said two of my favorites when he mentioned Hogan. I never thought I'd see that in this biography. And so
crazy.
That shows you the power of wisdom as you get older, the power of letting go of the old grudges, because all that ever does, and I still struggle with that. I still fight through that all the time. Grudges, all they do is grind you down and you lose. You don't win. Holding grudges, you don't win. It embitters you. It tears you apart from the inside out. And in the end, the person who hurt you ends up winning for longer in your life. And certainly Bret talked about how that screw job was something that affected him for many, many years. He couldn't get past it. No matter how much he tried to get vengeance on the WWE, he couldn't get past it. And I think that terrible match he had with Vince did nothing to really, really settle it. It's just something that's always going to be there, but he had to come to terms with it. And so letting go with the anger against Vince and against Shawn and just moving on with his life has been one of those positives. And I bet him and Hogan have had like phone conversations possibly to kind of settle the old shit too. So old men looking back, you lay down the crosses, you lay down the weapons and the armor, and you can actually talk about the battles. And that's really what it's like at the end of the day. You know?
That's really all we want to hear about anyway. Like we don't want to see we don't want to see like our wrestlers struggle, like our heroes struggle. So when it happens and we hear all these backstories, like it kind of rounds out the character. But it's really those matches. Like I wish they would have zeroed more in on the Mr. Perfect match, because that was so significant to Bret as a character and a turning point in his career, because that was his first singles title against a guy that had been pretty well protected in Mr. Perfect over the years. Mm-hmm. So I wish they would have kind of dug into that a little bit more. But I mean, I can't really complain. You could go on for hours and hours and hours about Bret Hart and his life and his career. So I'd say if it's an hour and a half or 2 hours, I'll take what I can get. I was very happy with how it was presented, and I'm glad that Bret continues to do well. Hope to meet him again very soon. I would really like to. Yeah, I love him. So
I'd love to get him on the show for us to interview him. That would be fantastic. If he's going around doing interviews, let's start shooting for the moon. Aaron, it says here, Zeno Hour says something that Bret alluded to as well, which I was surprised about. He says it's about almost 24 years later, and everyone is still committed to the greatest work in his wrestling history, the Montreal Screwjob. People do think this was a work. Like, people don't. This was real.
It's not a work.
I don't know why people think this was a work. It's beyond me. And Bret even mentioned the biography that people still come up to him and ask him if it was real or not. Do you think you get away with spitting on another human being on television and then punching him behind the scenes? He showed up the next night with the bruise on his eye. They have the footage. That is not makeup. That's a real bruise, man. And so I don't know how people think that's a work. That's some crazy UFO. Well, I can't say conspiracy because UFOs exist apparently, but it's some crazy, it's a crazy conspiracy stuff to think that was some kind of a work. That's the way Bret wanted to leave the WWE. They even have audio of them having the conversation about how he wanted to leave the WWE. So yeah, that's ridiculous.
Yeah. Ryan Christian says Scott Hall still saying it's work. Yeah, Scott Hall. I've heard Scott say that a lot. Like it's a work. It's not. Like you hear. If you wanted to listen to Cornette, he has like a whole 4-hour podcast about how they lined it up and they did it. Like they were all in on it and they screwed Bret over, whatever, however you feel about it. I've kind of grown to feel that like Bret should have just done the job, but it's whatever. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, this idea of like, well, it was a work, but he was bitter about it for all these years afterwards. That doesn't make any sense.
It doesn't make like it really put him in a psychological depression for a long time. Why would you just do that for fun? Like it doesn't make any sense.
Saul's in here cracking me up. He goes, "Why was his eye bruised if he was quote punched in the temple? I demand the truth." Absolutely.
A traveling punch.
Yeah, exactly. Went down. Anyway, but great biography. Definitely watch it if you guys haven't watched it. One of the best ones they've had so far, for sure. It starts out that music. I'm a little bit like, why are they trying to make it the Brady Bunch? And then it gets into the script. With the animated stuff, really works here too. The screaming. And Natty talking about how she'd be having her peach tea or whatever, rosemary tea or whatever, and hear the screaming down in the dungeons.
They had a live bear that they kept under their porch.
That was awesome. So a very weird upbringing for sure, man. Yeah. All right. Let me see. We got the we got a super chat that came in from Chris Taylor. He says, if they continue with the A&E bios, which wrestlers should they cover next?
Good question. Mr. Perfect, top of my list, of course.
Yes.
Undertaker.
All right.
I would like to see who else they got.
China,
yeah, of course. Yeah, some female ones like Trish, Lita would be good. Yes. Sherry. I mean, I'm just trying to think of legends they haven't done. Bruno Sammartino would be a good one with his upbringing and stuff like. I know he's not around
Bruno
anymore.
Would be great,
but stuff like that. Yeah.
What? I'm gonna throw Honky Tonk Man out there. You know, no one gives Honky Tonk his due, man. He held that belt for over a year, son. The IC belt, when it still had prominence, he held that belt for over a year, did his thing at a time when Savage was there, at a time when Warrior, Hogan, Honky Tonk Man. I think people need to give it a little more love. Or Greg the Hammer Valentine as well, another guy who was fantastic and did what he did for sure. So there's a lot more wrestlers that you can explore here, probably from the 80s and early 90s, that would be fun for them to kind of break down and look at. So yeah, that's my thoughts on that.
Yeah. Ric Flair.
Oh, Flair, of course. Mr. Perfect, of course. Yeah.
I'll give you one that's kind of obscure, but would be a good one because of his contributions. Jimmy Hart.
Jimmy Hart would be fantastic.
The mouth of the South, baby.
Dude, the fact that his hair doesn't gray, that's pretty incredible.
The mouth of the South, baby. Gotta love it, baby.
I never stop talking, baby. There you go. Let's see. Ricky Steamboat would be a good one as well. Ricky Steamboat would be fantastic to profile for sure. Yeah, there's a lot that they can still do, a lot of places to still explore for sure. Let's see. We got one Streamlab that came in here from rat_bastard. Okay. He says, did you watch the Dark Side of the Ring episode on Grizzly Smith? I still haven't seen it, but I heard from one of the reviews that parents let their daughters travel cities with this motherfucker. Is this real? This is the reason why I don't support pro-life. Okay, whatever that means. All right, Red. Thanks for the money, rat_bastard.
Yeah, I don't know about that last part.
Weird comment. Yeah.
Yes, we did. Yes, we did review the Dark Side of the Ring in the Shadow of Grizzly Smith in our last episode.
Yeah.
That was the thing. Once again, Cornette, I was listening to Cornette's podcast, and he was talking about how back in the day, like Grizzly Smith was such a well-known guy in Texas and all these places that if a girl, 13, 14, 15 wanted to go backstage and meet the wrestlers, like that was the cover story for their parents. Like, oh, cool. Grizzly Smith wants to take our child to the wrestling show. She gets to meet all the wrestlers. How wonderful. And they just had blinders onto all this stuff. So, I mean, I don't know about all that stuff. Like, it just seems like Grizzly Smith was such a big name in Texas that he'd get away with anything. Like, he was just one of these bulletproof guys that would never fly today. He would have been outed in a second today. So it just doesn't, I don't know. I really hated to watch that episode. It's very hard to watch, but
Yeah. Agreed. Good point. Yeah. Tough episode to watch. And those things happen because back then, I used to go out and play by myself or with a couple of friends for hours on end. I never had to check in with my parents until I came back. So, back then there was a lot less supervision going on in the world. People didn't think things were as bad as they were. It was only years later that people realized how dangerous that shit is. Now you can't go anywhere without being in touch with the parents for sure. All right, where shall we go to next here, Aaron?
All right, so now we're talking about Mickie James. James Aldis has reemerged, and she's with the NWA, the National Wrestling Alliance. Doesn't come as a huge surprise because her husband is the current NWA World Heavyweight Champion, that being Nick Aldis. And she had an announcement on this past week's Power with President Billy Corgan. Yes, that Billy Corgan. And she is executive producing an NWA-sanctioned all women's pay-per-view that will be known as NWA Empower. It will take place in St. Louis on August 28th. It will run concurrently with NWA 73, which will be happening from St. Louis as well. Yeah. And Mickie James said that she hopes to gather the best women in the world to compete on the show, even if they are currently under contract with other wrestling companies.
Wow.
And so she also went on to say, next chapter, it's my table. No, it's our table, ladies. Pull up a seat. She also said, came out this week and said that she will not be competing. She will be the executive producer and stuff like that. So there is a lot of thoughts out there that since, NWA has this relationship sort of with AEW, and they have a little bit of a relationship with Impact, that we may see some of those stars crossing over into this pay-per-view. So we could get to see a Dr. Britt Baker versus Deonna Purrazzo from Impact Wrestling. We might get to see some of these crossover matches. Do you think this is a cool thing? Do you think Mickie James is the right person to do it? What do you think about this?
Here's what I think. Mickie James has an incredible motor, man. She has an engine and a desire to do things, and she will not be stopped once she sets her mind to it. So in that way, I give all kinds of respect to Mickie James because no one else is doing this. No one else is trying to make this happen. No one else is pushing this like crazy. So you got to give her props that she's jumping in to do this. And she's a woman of her word. She said she wanted to see this happen. She said it should have happened. She said the WWE did. She didn't understand why the WWE didn't do this thing. And now she's putting it in motion here at the NWA with the backing of everybody there. And I love the name. Empower is fucking brilliant. And the fact that there are people who are going to possibly be on there from other federations, that's some great fantasy booking that you can start having in your head. Probably none of the WWE, I'm sure none of the WWE people will be part of it, but maybe some of the recently released people, maybe we see Alana, maybe we see some of these other female wrestlers that have recently been released, but you got to give it up to Mickie James. I mean, Mickie James just is determined. She is driven. This is why she succeeded for so many years in the business in multiple federations, because the woman believes in herself, believes in her causes, and makes things happen. So I think overall this is fantastic. Hopefully some great female talent will be highlighted here. And don't be surprised, Aaron, and this may not be a popular thing to say, but don't be surprised if Tessa Blanchard doesn't make an appearance in this situation.
It's very possible.
Right?
I think it's very possible that could happen. And I think it says a lot that Mickie herself said, I'm not going to compete. I'm just going to be the executive producer. Yeah. Like she could have easily been in it, won the championship, whatever. Yeah. Like they have talent, dude. I mean, they got Thunder Rosa, they got Camille, they've got Serena Deeb, they've got Marty Bell, they've got some people that they've really hung on to in the NWA, and that women's division could be really bolstered by this. A lot of popularity coming that way as well. Like I think it was Thunder Rosa this week that said, not every great female wrestler is in the WWE essentially. Yeah. Like they're all in different companies all across the world. So to see something like this come together, pretty cool, man, because Evolution was the Evolution pay-per-view that WWE did was a great idea. It was in great execution with that, but they never followed up on it. Like they haven't done the Mae Young Classic in a few years, which is something I really, really look forward to. Went to the second one. So like to showcase female wrestling on a grand stage where you can buy it on pay-per-view and if you want to see female empowerment, then use your dollars to back it. So very cool for Mickie James, a good opportunity for female talent across the world to get in on this pay-per-view. I'm excited to see it. I will definitely be a buyer.
Absolutely. And let's put this together. Look at Billy Corgan. What phase of his life is he in right now? This is an interesting look for him. I love it. He almost looks like, dude, this guy could play Lex Luthor on a TV show. I love the look of Billy Corgan right now with that mini beard and what have you. So fantastic look from Billy overall. I never thought that the dude from Smashing Pumpkins who told me that the world is a vampire would be running a federation, man. Pretty incredible stuff. Overall, but yes, shout out to Mickie James for doing this. I want to throw something in though to get your thoughts here, Aaron. Triple H was on a media call for In Your House, and you mentioned what he had said earlier about if you want to be a female wrestler, you got to come to the WWE. But he also said this about responding to what Mickie James said about having an all-female pay-per-view. He said, a white male said this. Haven't we already done them? It's a funny thing to me. So equality is equality. Equality is not, quote, I want my own show. Equality is not, we have to have our own program. If I told you that I was making an all men's program and I didn't want women on it, I would be criticized. And I'm not saying that's right or wrong. I do think it's funny when people go, I want the best in the world, regardless of contractual status. What? I'm sorry, but from a business person's standpoint, then why do we have contractual status, right? It doesn't make any sense to me. Then he went on to say, if you want to wrestle the best women in the world, come to WWE. That's not true. That's where they are. If you want to go elsewhere and say that they are, that's an opinion you can, but it is what it is. While I'm all for it, I was one of the biggest drivers of WWE evolution. And will we do another all women's event down the line? Possibly, but it's not the must-have of the moment. And he talks about how they do a great job displaying female talent. Thunder Rosa responded on Twitter and said, the best female wrestlers are not located in one company, not even in one country. They are spread over many companies in many countries, talented women across the globe. So I thought Triple H's comments here, Aaron, are incredibly tone deaf for a white male to be sitting here going like, well, that's not equality. Let me tell you what women equality is. Like, it's just like, if you're not listening to female voices in the room who are trying to tell you certain things, then you're a fool at this point to not be listening to them. Look, I have all kinds of respect for what Triple H has accomplished. Successful guy, worked his way up the company, done his thing, but doesn't mean he can be immune to criticism. I think this is a tone deaf thing for him to say that when at a time when women want to be heard by men in positions of power, they should be listening, not dictating what's equality to women.
Yeah, of course. What is he talking about?
Yeah.
Like, bro, you put on the Mae Young Classic twice. Like, what are you even talking about?
That's a great point, Aaron.
It doesn't make any sense. Like, it's asinine and silly, and it's like saying, well, I mean, let's just have females wrestle men. We'll just have them all wrestle each other. Let's just integrate it. Like, that is very tone deaf, which is very odd for Triple H because he's so poised in his comments and, is a big fan of the business and stuff like that. I would think that someone that has, I don't know if groom's the right word, it's probably not, but in this context, I guess, has groomed enough female talent through NXT to know that these comments are stupid.
Yeah.
Like, it's really dumb. And no, you can't be successful in the WWE, especially on the main roster, because they'll just cut your ass.
Yeah.
Like, they've cut like half of the women's roster on the main roster. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, you showed me that. You sent me that SmackDown graphic of what's left in the
seven
roster.
Women. 7 women on SmackDown. You're going to be watching Carmella versus Liv Morgan for the next 6 months, bro. Like, it's fucking absurd to say something like that. Like, evolution's not something that we're looking forward to right now on the plate. You know why? Because they don't have enough females to put it on. You just you just have to do an NXT takeover just with all women. Like, it's just, I don't know, dude. It seems like whenever female wrestling takes 2 steps forward, like WWE or whoever pushes it 10 steps back. And it's like, why? It's, I don't know.
Or they rush out to try to take credit for it when they had nothing to fucking do.
Exactly. Like, how many times did WWE put, it's the first female women's Royal Rumble. It's the first female Hell in a Cell. Like, they're these great pioneers until they actually get called out on it, and to the point where, okay, we'll do this now. And they're like, well, no, that's sexist. Like,
equality.
You're insane.
Yeah. Equality or being an ally is not doing one match a year that's focused on highlighting your talent of who's female or color, a person of color or whatever. That's not how you do it. It's consistently making sure those people are part of the process all the time. This idea, he said, if I told you that I was making an all men's program and I didn't want women on it, it would be criticized. Well, of course, because it's been all men's for fucking decades, Triple H. That's the same argument. People are like, why does BET exist if I had an all-white network? Yeah, of course, because it's been mostly white or almost all white for fucking decades. That's the difference. You've got to swing the pendulum back over a little bit, and then it'll even itself out. I'm always amazed at the people who are willfully tone deaf, because I know he knows better. They're willfully tone deaf, playing to a base that grabs this really stunted short-term logic and tries to use it as actual logic. We know the truth. You even know the truth. You're spewing bullshit, but you're still going to spew it because it riles up the base, or you have enough of a base that's supporting that kind of nonsense. So I'm just surprised because I really respect Triple H. I'm surprised, and he's done a lot for women's wrestling in the WWE. So I'm just surprised to hear him say these kinds of things. Anyway,
I always remember this from high school, middle school, something. My friend, one of my best friends, Jason Martin. You know, I'm from a small town in West Virginia, a lot of hillbillies. Yeah. Okay, and he's a black guy in a town of hillbillies. So you know, he's been through it. So,
that's not easy.
It's not easy. He's been through it. So I remember one time in class, like somebody said, like it was like February, it's Black History Month, and somebody said, "Well, when is White History Month?" And he, without missing a beat, just pops up and says, "It's the other 11." like you know what I mean? Like it's like that. It's like I'll never forget that because he's damn right. He's right. It is the other 11. So just give us one, bro. Yeah. Like just give us one. That's all we're asking for. It's so stupid.
It's so ridiculous. Yeah, and keep pushing until it's equal. Then when it is equal, then you can start kind of figuring things out, you know.
For fuck's sake.
So ridiculous. We had a Streamlab come in from Justin Toner. Good to see you, Justin. He said, hi, John and Aaron. Raw hit a new low with that Alexa, Shayna, Lily BS this week. Not a fan of this angle. Still catching up on the AEW biographies. But, man, Dynamite Kid, Dark Side of the Ring episode was rough. Looking forward to hearing your predictions for TakeOver. Yeah, we're getting to that in just a second here. Yeah, I agree. They are... dude, this angle is horrific now. I think Alexa is absolutely being wasted in this angle. Now that she's the center of this angle, it is boring AF. Watching her with Shayna, I was like, what are you doing? What are you doing to Shayna? What are y'all doing to Shayna? So it's just like, it's rough, man. It is. I don't know how you feel about it, but I was not enjoying it at all.
Well, it's the wrong person to put in a feud with Alexa Bliss. It's like, you know what we're going to do? Like, Shayna was such a badass. You know what we're going to do? We're going to put her up against like a mystic doll. Who's doing this? Like, come on, dude. Like, there's other people you can do this with. Like, do it with Dana Brooke or something. Like, why are you doing it with Shayna Baszler? Somebody that like lost all of her credibility of being like this awesome badass. Like, I get that like Alexa's super popular. She's gorgeous. You know, there's all these things. They made her like the female version of the Fiend. Cool, whatever. But it's like, don't try to build Alexa up at the what do I want to say? At the risk of downing Shayna Baszler. Like, it's ridiculous. Like, it just makes, like, who booked this shit? Like, it's just, I hate it. I hate every bit of it.
It's a terrible, terrible and creative angle. And you're right. I mean, they're responsible for destroying Shayna's credibility as a massively strong wrestler. And now they're going to put her into this nonsense to try to supposedly give her some kind of showcase. But you know, I don't know. Alexa's not going to push back on this because she's obviously going to do what the company tells her to do. She said that very clearly on numerous conversations and numerous interviews. So whatever. But in the end, it's a terrible angle, and it isn't helping her, and it's actually destroying what she had built up with the Fiend. It is really she's boring doing this stuff with the doll and everything. It's not interesting in any way, shape, or form. So it's a shame because I thought it was a great angle with her and the Fiend, and now it's gone in this direction. All right. Anyway, let's keep it going here. Aaron, where are we off to next?
Now we're talking about the Dark Side of the Ring episode from this week, which was focusing on Tommy Billington, aka the Dynamite Kid. Yeah. And if you don't recall the Kid, like he was, you know, he came in through Calgary, like we talked about with Bret Hart. He's one of those Stampede guys. Yeah. Was in a tag team with Davey Boy Smith. They were the British Bulldogs. They had Matilda come down to the ring, former WWE Tag Team Champions. And of course, Dynamite broke off and went on to Japan and had some great matches with Tiger Masks and was well known. Tiger Mask. And they, you know, he was well known in Japan, finished his career there and doing stuff. And then really Dynamite over the years became, you know, infamous, especially after the Chris Benoit trials and stuff like that, when all came out about Tommy Billington's past, because like they say in Dark Side of the Ring, it was this family secret that they kept for so long that Dynamite had this real explosive, almost like morbid personality of, you know, playing chicken on the highway with people and just doing this risky behavior is very dangerous for anybody. And you just had this sadistic personality that nobody knew. I mean, even going as far as grabbing his wife by the hair in front of their children and holding a gun to her face.
A shotgun. Not a gun. A shotgun.
And saying that he was going to blow her head off in front of her own children. So that is something, you know, really crazy. And then his back injuries and stuff like that. But, you know, John, you said you didn't really know a whole lot about Dynamite Kid.
Yeah.
So I'm interested to get your perspective on it. I mean, there were some things that I wasn't 100% sure about, but, you know, Dynamite being a Calgary guy, being in that Hart family, I did know a lot about him. But what were your thoughts on Dynamite here?
Well, certainly I remember the British Bulldogs, you know, but I always focused on Davey Boy, not Dynamite Kid so much. I don't think Dynamite Kid had a solo run, if I remember correctly, that was of any real note in the WWF, which was at the time. But certainly with the British Bulldogs, I remember that being a thing for sure. But for whatever reason, I never really kind of grabbed onto him. But watching this Dark Side of the Ring was really kind of illuminating to see how his high-flying style and his ability to take the bumps that he took kind of previewed not only what we'd be seeing from the cruiserweight division, from people like Rey Mysterio and all these other great, obviously the Luchador was around before them, but just this idea of high flying being accepted more and more in the mainstream point of view in terms of professional wrestling. But also I think it influenced a lot of ECW. Some of the bumps that he was taking were insane to see over railings and these high flying things and being thrown with full force into those steel railings back then. There was no cover on those things, man. That was actual steel that you were hitting. So seeing his kind of influence in that way was very illuminating for me, as I just said. But as we go into his life, that was the part that I was just, I felt really tragic about as I was watching, because his wife is very clear that the first few years of their marriage, before he got knee deep into the steroids and all of that and the pressures and what have you, they had a very nice life. And she speaks glowingly about how he was as a father with the kids when he was around, and how you see those pictures, they're great. But you hear these other stories, and, you know, even she defends him at the end, which really shocked me, when she was just like, well, you know, you want to talk about all the bad stuff, but you better talk about CTE. You better talk about the fact that they don't help these wrestlers from back then, that they didn't step forward and take responsibility for this stuff. Hearing him like being in a wheelchair or being in a situation with his back where he had no place to go, he had to sleep on the ground. Like, why wasn't the WWF making sure that he had the best accommodations after he had suffered this injury during one of their events? Like, it's just these kinds of things that you go back in the past, you look at how Vince and the company treated their wrestlers that weren't like Hogan, and you're just shocked at the kind of mistreatment that they gave them all the time, and how that could lead to a situation to what happened with a number of these wrestlers, not the Benoit extreme, but certainly losing their families, losing their livelihoods and what have you. It's a shame to see. And that last picture of him all skinny and gaunt before he died is just, man, that was a really rough thing to see for sure overall. So whatever damage he did, it feels like the back end of his life, with all the physical maladies and the issues that he had with his back, he certainly physically paid for it. And it was great to see that his daughter came to see him to offer him some kind of closure on the situation there for sure. And they speak, you know, pretty happily about him overall, which I thought was also shocking. So they must have felt genuine love from him as their dad.
That really surprised me, that his eldest daughter went to see him and they had such a happy reunion, because they talk about his son is not in this episode, and they talk about how he called him on the phone and he said, "Dad, I miss you. I love you," all this stuff. And he said, "Why?" Yeah. Like that's heartbreaking. Like to get that from your father. Like I think he knew that he was not the best father, but you know, you talked about it. Like, why did nobody help this guy? Like, they told the story, like Dynamite's back was so bad that Davey had to carry him to the ring, and they had to drop the titles to the Hart Foundation. Like, I don't know why that happened. Like, why not just do, like, you know, he's unable to perform. Like, maybe that's just how it was, you know, back in the day. I don't know. But I think this whole thing stems around that Jacques Rougeau story. Like, we got to talk about that, because what happened essentially was that Dynamite was not a fan of Jacques Rougeau, because he was a loud, boisterous a-hole, still is. And Dynamite took exception to that and, you know, beat the crap out of him, essentially. Beat up Jacques Rougeau really bad, which was just something that happened back in the day. So Jacques Rougeau said, "I got to plot my revenge," and took a roll of quarters in his hand and punched Dynamite right in the mouth and knocked out 4 of his teeth, and there was blood everywhere, and just beat the crap out of Dynamite Kid. And like, they talked about it on the episode. I think there was somebody that alluded to it being brass knuckles and not a quarter, like, or not quarters. But I remember Bruce Pritchard on his podcast saying that he saw Dynamite in the aftermath and he saw quarters on the ground and a bunch of blood. So I'll go ahead and say that it was a roll of quarters. I don't know what happened to your camera there, Rocha, but now you're back. Okay, so
sorry guys.
But yeah, that whole thing like kind of screwed up Dynamite's credibility. Like he was this big tough guy, like don't cross the Dynamite Kid, and then this dude Jacques Rougeau, this boisterous guy, just knocked him out with like one punch, just beat up this Dynamite Kid, and it really messed with his head. It seemed like even his wife, like Dynamite's wife, was like, I don't want to talk about it. I don't want to talk about that situation. It seems to me, and once again, not a psychologist, let me put that out there, but it seems they talk a lot about Dynamite when he was coming through and being trained, and like the abuse that he suffered like through his body. Like that's just how you were brought up in the wrestling business. I feel like maybe there was more to it than just physical. Like it seems like he had a lot going on and a lot of resentment going on. Once again, not a psychologist, but it seemed like that just kind of held over into his entire career, because you hear that a lot. Like he came through the hard way and stuff like that. And he resented people that didn't come through that way. So just an interesting story. And he also broke Mick Foley's jaw, which was an interesting story for Mick to tell. Like he talked about how he loved Dynamite Kid, and then he broke his jaw. So it was a pretty cool story. But this is not an unusual situation with athletes from back then. There's this whole thing where there was the newer generation that was coming in, basically taking advantage of the foundation that these guys had built, and felt that they could just walk in and be cocky little shits and do their own thing and not have to pay the price and not have to pay. I'm not saying that things happen like that, currently in something else, but you see that happening all the time, talking their shit and acting as if they own the place when they didn't even do a damn thing to build the place. And so to see that happen, but however you feel about the Rougeau situation, I see Saul in the chat saying he didn't like that they pinned it all on that. Who knows if it's true or not? But if Dynamite Kid slapped that dude from behind and punched him and kicked him in the face, I think Rougeau's got every right to hit my boy in the face with some roller quarters and trick him into thinking there's a hitman coming after him and his wife. You fuck with a man, you never know how a man is going to react. And so you've opened the door once you do that. And I'm not saying you deserve anything, but there are consequences. And so in that situation, and he didn't strike me as the most intelligent guy, so maybe he bought the whole thing about the hitman having, ironic, the hitman was his cousin, or his brother-in-law, his brother-in-law. But he might have bought that whole thing because Dino had that reputation, which was a dark side of the ring in season 2. He had that reputation, so I'm not surprised by it. But I don't think it was the punching of the mouth. You can always get your credibility back in different ways as a man and get past it. I think it was the steroids, the CTE, the bumps, the body breaking down at a young age, all those things, and the failing marriage, they undercut your foundation as a man, physically, emotionally, and mentally. So all that's going to work on you overall. And he could have backed Rougeau in different ways for sure. But if you hear about the tricks they pulled on these guys, that sleeping pill, all that stuff, if you think I'm going to feel any fucking sympathy that Rougeau got the best of you when you were doing shit like that, and I bet that was just the tame stories. I'm sure there are some pretty brutal stories where he put certain people to bed, and I sure as fuck hope he wasn't doing that with women. So it's like those things they kind of shied away from or didn't get into too much. But don't tell me he was just dropping pills and, it was just innocent fun and pranks. There probably was some pretty brutal shit that happened, or some uncomfortable shit that happened probably when they were putting people to bed with those pills. So, overall, a kind of uncomfortable exploration of this guy's life. And yes, his family speaks positively about him, and that's totally fine. But my opinion on this is a guy who did some pretty terrible shit. Even though he influenced the business, he did some pretty terrible shit out of it, and certainly paid for it physically by the end of his life. Throwing syringes into the wall like darts. Like they talked about that. Like, what the hell? And then, man, like some of those stories, like they made that him and Davey made that one guy quit the business, like because they crapped in his bag and they did all that stuff. Like I've heard stories of Dynamite and Davey injecting steroids into the dog. I've heard about that. Matilda, the dog. What? So animal cruelty, like, Jake wasn't nice to the snakes either. Like you hear these guys are, back in the day, they're doing all these drugs. They're, going out drinking. Like, this is funny. Like, let's get the dog drunk. Like, shit like that. Like, I just can't like I love Davey, but I just can't like even get like I can't get down with that. Like they didn't mention that in the Bret Hart documentary either. But when he wrestled Davey at SummerSlam, Davey was high on crack the day before.
Yeah.
So anyway, like your heroes are not your heroes sometimes. But I thought like this episode, although tough, like it kind of bookended nicely. Like it was, I don't know, it kind of nicely bookended because it was like
it did.
Dynamite had gone through all this shit, but at the end of the day, he was still loved. Like it's crazy, man.
It's crazy,
absolutely crazy. But I do want to bring
shout out to his wife. Shout out to his wife, though.
Oh my God, what a tough lady.
She's a trooper, man. To all the shit she put up with and still raise those kids, and they're beautiful kids. They're beautiful looking kids. So hopefully, they're happy in their lives. But go ahead,
I do want to mention that this is the finale of part 1 of season 3. So Dark Side of the Ring announced just a little bit ago on their Twitter that they're coming back in September, and they're going to have the following episodes for the rest of season 3, which will be Johnny K9, aka Bruiser Bedlam. I don't know what that is.
Okay.
The steroid trials, of course, WWE in the 90s.
Oh, damn.
Chris Kanyon. FMW, XPW, the failed Hulk Hogan promotion, Luna Vachon, interesting, and the plane ride from hell. So that'll be the rest of your Dark Side of the Ring episodes for this season. So I'm excited about that, man. I've really enjoyed Dark Side. I think they kind of like the Collision and Cree episode didn't really do it for me, and there was a couple episodes this season that weren't my favorite, but they really they bookended strong. Pillman and then the Dynamite Kid, and as tough as the Grizzly Smith episode was, it was good. So can't wait to see that one.
And let people know what the plane ride from hell is. What's the plane ride from hell, Aaron?
Oh, so the plane ride from hell is this WWE plane flight back from an event where just like everybody got fucked up and like chaos ensued. Like Brock Lesnar got in a shoot fight. I believe it was with Kurt. I forget. Oh, it was
Jericho?
Mr. Perfect. No, it was Mr. Perfect.
Oh, Mr. Perfect. Okay.
Mr. Perfect wanted to shoot wrestle Brock Lesnar on a plane to where they almost went outside of the door. Like the door almost came open on the plane. Everybody, like Ric Flair was showing his junk. Like it was like Dustin Runnels got messed up and was singing to Terry Runnels, who he was divorced from at the time. Like it's just this all kinds of madness that happened on this flight. So it's going to be good, but a lot of crazy things happened on that flight.
Yeah, looking forward to that. That's a great one. If they're ending the season on it, that's a perfect one, Dan.
Who wants to shoot wrestle Brock Lesnar? Like, if you're not Kurt Angle, like, what's wrong with you?
Yeah, it's true. That's true. I like this one from was it from Kenneth Daisy? He says, "I can't wait for Dark Side of the Schmodown."
It's not that dicey yet, is it? I mean, there's probably some stuff I could put some stuff in there. Let me be a contributor.
You're in some trouble there. You're in some trouble there with the FCL. Good luck, son. All right. Where's Michael Hayes got his ponytail cut off on that ride?
That's right. He did. He did. You're right.
Oh, wow. This is a good one. Yeah, Sid Vicious would be a good one to look into if they did.
Stabbed Arn Anderson with some scissors. Yeah.
Yep. It's crazy, man. It's crazy, man. I kind of miss those days, but I'm also glad we're past those days, Aaron. I don't want to hear crazy shit happening in the back. All right. Anyway, great stuff. So yeah, there you go. There's the back end of Dark Side of the Ring. So some I don't know a couple of the things that
me either,
Aaron mentioned, a couple of subjects. So that makes me more excited because I like watching stuff that I had no idea about. And getting some knowledge. It's always great to see that because the entry point is professional wrestling, and whatever stories you're going to tell, I'm interested already. So, all right, let's get into our preview here as we wrap up. No more Streamlabs or Super Chats left. If you want to send some in now, send them in now because we've got about 5-10 minutes left in the show, and we'll be able to answer them or give our opinions on the thoughts or comments. Let's get into it, Aaron.
All right, so NXT Takeover in your house takes place tonight from the Capitol Wrestling Center. I'm not going to be there, but good news, I will be at NXT on Tuesday. So I'm super excited to be in the crowd for NXT. First time in over like a year or so since the pandemic, of course. But I got the invite and I'm going. Anyway, NXT Takeover thank you. NXT Takeover in your house. We will start with the first match, which is a kind of an odd matchup. It's a 6-man tag. You're going to have the NXT Tag Team Champions, MSK, and the North American Champion, Bronson Reed, versus Legado del Fantasma. The winner take all So whoever wins will be the NXT Tag Team Champions and North American Champions. What do you think about this one, dude?
I think there's no way MSK and Bronson Reed drop the titles. I just don't see that happening. So I think it's going to be a fantastic match, but I think in the end it's going to be Bronson Reed and MSK walking out of this thing overall with both of these belts. Is there any way that there's a disqualification and they keep all the belts exactly where they're at? I don't know if that stipulation is in the cards here.
Yeah, I don't think that's going to fly. I don't think we're going to do a DQ. So, yeah, we're probably going to get a clean win. It's going to be Bronson Reed and MSK for sure. They're not going to drop the titles this early.
Yeah, I agree. All right. But do you expect that this will be a good match, or do you think this will be one to go get you fucking drink? Or this feels like this is going to start the pay-per-view.
Yeah, so that's how I feel too. I think it's going to be a banger. I really think it's going to be good. Like, these 6 dudes are going to be good. I want to see what Santos Escobar does against Bronson Reed because they're so different in size and different in style. So I kind of want to see how that goes, but should be a good one.
Okay. All right, cool. Where are we off to next?
Oh, this one's going to be good. This one I like for different reasons, but it's going to be my man LA Knight versus Cameron Grimes in a ladder match for the $1 million championship. So Ted DiBiase will probably be there, and we will see who comes out on top. Who you got between LA Knight and Cameron Grimes?
Look, he's the guy that's talked about money since he walked through the door, so I just don't see the logic in Cameron Grimes losing this match. He has to get that DiBiase belt. That makes all the sense in the world. That being said, LA Knight is their push has not been good for LA Knight, Aaron.
Yeah, it's been lukewarm.
It's been right. Fair. Lukewarm. Not necessarily bad, just lukewarm. Does him beating Cameron Grimes and getting this belt help him? I think him delivering an incredible match against Cameron Grimes, that Cameron Grimes finds some chicken shit way of winning, would go farther to promoting LA Knight than him beating Cameron Grimes, some incredible match, and taking the DiBiase belt. That doesn't make sense. So I just feel like Grimes, since he's the money obsessed guy, makes all the sense in the world for him to win this thing. What do you think?
I 100% agree. I mean, Cameron Grimes is going to take it to the moon, as he likes to say. So I think that Cameron Grimes has to win this match. LA, I want to see what happens with Ted, though. Like, are they going to keep Ted DiBiase around? Is he going to manage whoever wins? Like, if him and LA Knight as a pairing sounds friggin' awesome. Like, give me that. That sounds great.
Don't you think he'll interfere in the match somehow? Maybe
I don't know. That's a good question. That's a really good question. We'll see what they do with Ted. But I would like to see him manage LA Knight. I think that would be awesome. But I think Cameron Grimes will win because, like you said, they've just been really, like, Cameron Grimes has been getting beaten and getting made a fool of, and it would just make sense for him to win the $1 million championship.
I like this. Virgil helps LA Knight.
Wow. That would be something.
That's not going to happen, but that would be something. I just feel like DiBiase will get involved in some way, shape, or form. And then at the end, I just want to see that. All right. Where are we off to next, brother?
We are talking about the NXT Women's Championship match. Will be Raquel Gonzalez being challenged by former NXT Women's Champion Ember Moon. What do you think about this one?
They made such a big deal of giving Raquel the belt. I just don't see Ember Moon winning this thing unless there's an injury to Raquel that we don't know about. I just don't see this happening. I mean, they had her stand with the two other my God, why can't I think of it? When they came out and won all the titles,
Rhea and Bianca Belair.
Yeah, Rhea Ripley and Bianca Belair all standing in the middle of the ring, holding up it just seems like too big of a thing for them to take the belt away from Raquel. So I think it's going to be a heck of a match. I think Ember's going to come real close to winning, probably the closest near win that you'll see in all the matches. But in the end, I think Raquel is going to come out victorious. But Ember is going to get that belt at some point for sure.
I think this is going to be a real test for what Raquel Gonzalez can do. Like, yes, she had the match with Io Shirai, who's arguably the best female wrestler in the world, if not the best wrestler in the world.
Right.
So to have a match with Ember Moon, who has this pedigree of former NXT Women's Champion, great wrestler for the most part, especially in the women's division, I think it's going to be another feather in her cap to be the NXT Women's Champion. I think Raquel is going to perform well, but I think Ember Moon will steal the show and make people realize why she is as good as she is. Yeah, I will go with Raquel.
Yep. All right. Cool. All right. Where are we off to next, my man?
So our next match is a grudge match. Xia Li versus Mercedes Martinez. This one, I got to be honest, like I don't know like the whole backstory situation. I feel like Mercedes Martinez needs to get a win here, but Xia Li is this character that they're building, so it's kind of hard to tell. But I'll stick with Mercedes Martinez.
I'm going to go with Xia Li, man. I'm going to go against you on this one. I think, like you said, they've been building her up. They've been focusing on her, trying to get that character over. This is a good way to get her over. I don't know if they know what they're doing about Mercedes Martinez here. So I think Xia Li makes the most sense to me. You might be right, but I feel like Xia Li seems to be the right creative decision to make at this moment. So I think that's where they're going to go overall. So, but a lot of people like her. I just think that Xia Li is going to take this one.
Fair enough. And now we're on to our main event, a fatal five-way. I kind of like how they did this because Karrion Kross essentially just said, I'll fight everybody. And I like that. So it will be Adam Cole versus Kyle O'Reilly versus Johnny Gargano versus Pete Dunne versus Karrion Kross for the NXT Championship. Should be an absolute banger. I think that Karrion Kross will win. And I think that it will be a great match. And I would love to see Samoa Joe come out at the end and challenge Karrion Kross. If that's what we get, what an ending to Takeover. I think that would be fantastic. So,
wow.
Yeah, I'll go with Karrion Kross.
Okay. This is tough because I want Johnny to surprise everybody and get the belt again. But I don't know. I guess, you know what? I never doubt Adam Cole, baby. So I'm just going to go with Adam Cole. I know Karrion Kross will probably win. Karrion Kross will probably win. Certainly because he hasn't fully been established yet as the NXT champion, like fully, like the way Adam Cole was or others have been. So I feel like he's probably going to win, but I'm going to pick a dark horse here, and I'm going to say Adam Cole, baby. I think Adam Cole is going to shock the world and win this one. What do you think?
Yeah, I'm sticking with Karrion Kross. I think that it's interesting though because like this is the best really that NXT has to offer in far as the men's division. So it's like if Karrion
one match,
if Karrion Kross runs through these guys, like what's next for Karrion Kross? It's got to be somebody else. It's got to be like Samoa Joe because he's already beaten Finn Balor. He's beaten Keith Lee when he was there at the time. So if he beats all these guys too, like that's 4 out of the 5 are world champions, like Karrion Kross, NXT champion, Adam Cole, NXT champion, Johnny Gargano, former NXT champion, Pete Dunne, UK champion, Kyle O'Reilly's the only one that has been a world champion. But like, damn, like, what's it say about Karrion Kross if he just buzzsaws through all these guys? I don't know, man.
Yeah. And also, I feel like if this is you book a match like this for 2 reasons, Aaron. One, it's to really establish your champion.
Yeah, because
maybe he's not pushing the merch. Maybe he's not putting butts in seats. Maybe the views are down. So you set something up like this. Or B, you've already made your decision that you don't like this guy as champion. So you're going to make the move to someone else who is a proven commodity. Adam Cole is a proven commodity. So, and Gargano is a proven commodity. So, and I've seen people predicting Kyle O'Reilly out of left field possibly winning this thing, which would be an insane thing because a lot of people love Kyle O'Reilly. Could they be making a move here? Would Kyle O'Reilly win this thing? And could he be like shot into the moon, as you just said with Cameron Grimes? Could he shoot to the moon with a victory here over everybody? That would shock the NXT world and the NXT fans for sure. But you might be right. Maybe they want to really establish Karrion. So Karrion beating all these guys is a way to do that because maybe they're not 100% sold on him and they want to give him at least one more chance to show what he can do in the ring and carry the strap. We'll see.
There you go. To the moon. Love it.
We shall see. All right, let's wrap it up there, Aaron. I think that's everything we had to cover today. Is that correct?
That is it, man. That's the whole show. Long hour and a half show.
Thank you all so much for joining us this morning. We appreciate it madly. Thanks for hanging with us on the change in time. And please hit the like button on this. I haven't said this the whole entire show. Please hit that like button. If you're watching us later, please hit that like button. And leave a comment down below as well. Likes and comments are so important to help elevate the visibility of the show and put this as a suggested show for other people who watch pro wrestling shows. I think we're building a damn good show here, and I think people have been enjoying it more and more as Aaron and I have found our rhythm. So thank you very much for being a part of it, all of you, especially those of you who come consistently every week to hang out in the chat and bust balls and throw your great comments in. Aaron, thanks again, brother. Another awesome week with you. Where can they find you and everything you got going on, my man?
You can find me on Twitter at only Aaron Turner. Things are happening, guys. Like, announcements are coming soon. Just keep your eyes on my Twitter feed. Keep your eyes there. I do want to shout out my nephew, though. Like I said, he was in basic training for the Army. He completed the Forge this week. So if you know what the Forge is, or you don't know, Google it. Very difficult. Very, very proud of him. He is now an official member of the United States Army. So good for him. And yeah, I'm going to leave, and I'm going on a date with my wife. We're going to go see In the Heights at the movie theater, I think, and we're going to go get some food. It's going to be awesome. Excited for the rest of the day.
I'm glad you're going to see it, brother. I've seen it 3 times. You know, it speaks to me as a Latino. It's a fucking beautiful film. I hope you like it, and I'm glad you're going to see it, and your wife are going together to enjoy yourselves. It's going to be an awesome experience for you, so I can't wait to hear your thoughts afterwards for sure. Awesome. All right, and you can follow me at The Rocha Says on Twitter and on Instagram. Please, Aaron and I are always open to talk wrestling, so tweet at us anything you want to talk about in terms of professional wrestling. We'd love to hear from you for sure. As I said, remember to like and comment down below. Also, subscribe to the channel. 4 of you subscribed while we were doing this show. Vin, Gamer_IT, Guru Mohan, Edita Stawarski, Mike Griffith, and Heather S. So 6 of you, subscribe to the show while we're doing the show. So thank you, or to the channel. Thank you very much. Remember to hit that bell as well to let you know about all the content coming up. And I'll have reviews of In the Heights and a bunch of other stuff coming up. I had camera issues this week. As you saw, my camera went out, so I'm just using the webcam now. I may be just shooting them on webcam going forward. I got to figure this whole situation out because I'm going to be doing more and more entertainment content here on the channel. And I'm going to have Aaron Turner do some more stuff too if he's got time. So we're going to have some fun talking about that as well. So much love to all of you. Take care of yourselves. Have a great Sunday, and we'll see you next week for another enjoy in your house tonight as well.
Yes, sir.
And we'll see you next week with another live episode of Strong Style.